You've tried everything to focus, haven't you? Blocking social media, the Pomodoro technique, even that expensive noise-canceling headset. But what if I told you the most productive people in the world are not forcing themselves to focus? Instead, they're tapping into a state where focus happens automatically. Scientists call this state flow state, and neuroscience shows it's up to 500% more productive than normal working states. When you're in flow, not only does time seem to vanish, but your brain releases a cocktail of performance-enhancing neurochemicals that make work feel effortless. I'll show you exactly how to trigger this state on command. The flow paradox: why trying harder to focus actually backfires. What if everything you've been taught about concentration is completely backward? We've all heard the standard advice: just push harder, use more willpower, force yourself to focus. The entire productivity industry is built on this idea. But here's the irony: the harder you try to focus, the more elusive true focus becomes. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you sat down, determined to concentrate, only to find your mind wandering minutes later? You blame yourself, your lack of discipline, or maybe that extra cup of coffee. But what if the problem isn't you, it's the entire approach? Neuroscience has revealed something fascinating about our brains. When you consciously try to focus, you activate what scientists call top-down attention, a deliberate, effortful process controlled by your prefrontal cortex. Sounds good, right? But here's the unexpected twist. This same process simultaneously activates self-monitoring circuits that actually prevent you from reaching a state of deep, effortless focus. It's like trying to fall asleep by concentrating really hard on sleeping. The more you think about it, the more impossible it becomes. True flow, that state where you're completely absorbed and time seems to disappear, requires something entirely different. Your brain has this fascinating network called the default mode network, or DMN. It's responsible for self-referential thinking, basically all thoughts about yourself. How am I doing? Am I making progress? What will others think of this work? Every time these thoughts pop up, they pull you out of flow and back into self-awareness. And ironically, trying hard to focus often amplifies these very thoughts. This explains why popular productivity techniques sometimes backfire. Take the Pomodoro method. Work for 25 minutes, break for 5. It sounds logical, but there's a fundamental problem. By making you constantly aware of time, it keeps your self-monitoring circuits active. For simple tasks, that might be fine. But for complex creative work, it's like trying to paint a masterpiece while someone repeatedly reminds you that you're painting. I notice this in my own work. Whenever I set a timer to focus, part of my attention stays fixed on the countdown, preventing me from fully immersing myself in the task. The method that was supposed to help me focus was actually keeping me from reaching true flow. If elite performers don't rely on superior willpower, then what is their secret? Research shows they've learned to structure their environments and activities to trigger flow automatically. They're not fighting against their brain's natural tendencies, they're working with them. Look at professional athletes during a peak performance. Brain scans reveal something remarkable: reduced activity in their prefrontal cortex. That's right, the analytical, self-critical part of their brain actually goes quieter. They're not thinking harder, they're thinking less. This phenomenon, called transient hypofrontality, literally turns down your inner critic, allowing your training and intuition to take over. What if, instead of forcing focus, you could design your work environment to make focus the path of least resistance? What if you could create conditions where your brain naturally slips into flow without the exhausting battle of willpower? The real game changer isn't having more discipline than everyone else. It's understanding that flow has specific neurological triggers that can be systematically activated. Elite performers aren't superhuman. They've just discovered how to hack their brain's natural operating system. Consider chess grandmasters who can maintain intense concentration for hours. They're not constantly telling themselves to focus. Instead, they've created an environment and challenge level that automatically pulls them into flow. The perfect challenge skill ratio triggers a cascade of neurochemicals: dopamine, norepinephrine, anandamide, serotonin, and endorphins that naturally lock their attention in place. Engineering your personal flow triggers. That perfect balance chess grandmasters achieve isn't just talent. It's a precisely calibrated system that anyone can build for themselves. Have you noticed how some activities effortlessly capture your complete attention, while others have you checking your phone every few minutes? There's actually a science behind this difference, and it revolves around something researchers call the 4% rule. Let me explain. Flow exists in a narrow corridor between boredom and anxiety. When an activity is too easy, your mind wanders and seeks stimulation elsewhere. When it's too difficult, stress hormones flood your system and your brain shifts into protection mode. But right in that sweet spot where the challenge pushes you about 4% beyond your current abilities, magic happens. This explains why generic productivity advice so often fails. What triggers flow for me might create anxiety for you. Your flow triggers are as unique as your fingerprints, shaped by your personal experiences, skills, and neurological wiring. One person might enter flow while coding with techno music blasting, while another needs complete silence and a cup of tea. The research is clear that your brain enters flow most readily when four specific conditions converge simultaneously. You need clear goals that focus your attention. You need immediate feedback on how you're performing. You need that perfect challenge skill balance we just discussed, and you need complete concentration without interruption. Here's what most people miss. These conditions need to be calibrated specifically for you. Think about activities where you've lost track of time completely. Maybe it's playing an instrument, solving technical problems, or having a deep conversation. These experiences contain valuable clues about your personal flow profile. I've worked with entrepreneurs who discovered they only enter flow when standing at a whiteboard rather than sitting at a desk. Others found that flow comes more easily after physical exercise or when working in 90-minute blocks instead of the standard 60 minutes. One writer I know enters flow most consistently after doing 5 minutes of breathing exercises while listening to the same song each time. It's become her brain's on switch for creative thinking. Environmental factors play a massive role in triggering flow. The temperature of your workspace, the time of day, background noise levels, even your body position. All these elements can either facilitate or block your entry into flow. The most productive people I know have mapped these triggers with scientific precision through experimentation. Consider creating your own flow profile by tracking when you naturally fall into states of complete absorption. What time of day was it? What was your energy level? What sounds surrounded you? Were you alone or with others? Over time, patterns will emerge revealing your personal neurological pathways to flow. When you identify these patterns, you can engineer your environment to activate them systematically. Maybe you discover that natural light, a slightly cool room, and ambient instrumental music consistently help you enter flow. Or perhaps you flow best when slightly sleep-deprived, working against a deadline with a specific type of background noise. The key is systematic experimentation. Try different environmental setups, work rhythms, and challenge levels while tracking your results. For example, reflect after each session on which specific factors, such as music, time of day, or task complexity, helped you naturally slip into a flow state. Notice which activities trigger intrinsic motivation, that sense of wanting to do something for its own sake rather than for external reward. Some people benefit enormously from mindfulness practices. Research shows that regular meditation or visualization techniques significantly boost your present moment awareness and emotional regulation, two crucial components for accessing flow states more readily. These practices strengthen the neural pathways that help you stay present rather than getting caught in self-conscious thinking. How to trigger flow and 5 times your output. The numbers don't lie. Implementing flow principles can boost your productivity by up to 500% compared to forcing yourself to concentrate. That's not just marginally better, that's transformative. And here's the beautiful thing, you can start today. Instead of battling your brain's natural tendencies, shift your approach to creating conditions where focus becomes automatic. Begin with the basics, set clear, attainable goals for each work session. Then, systematically remove distractions from your environment. Notice what happens when you do this consistently. Your mind begins to associate certain spaces, sounds, or routines with deep work. This is your personal flow trigger profile taking shape. Remember, extraordinary productivity isn't about gritting your teeth and powering through. It's about designing your environment so skillfully that focus becomes the path of least resistance. Your brain wants to enter flow, you just need to give it permission.